Rivo's Rides, and this is what's going to be a new feature to the channel. The idea behind this, or the concept behind this, is that we get loads of cool bikes, cars and trucks coming into the hub on a weekly basis, and we just want to show you, our followers, especially when you're not local to the hub, all the cool stuff that's coming in. So the idea is getting you and your vehicles in front of the graffiti walls. We'll get some shots and we'll talk about the builds. So as this is the first feature for Rivo's Rides, we thought we'd do it with one of our own cars, and we're going to show you around Shrekker, the drag racing car. So Shrekker is a 1971 Volkswagen Trekker, hence the name Shrekker, obviously being bright green. In America they're known as Things, but Volkswagen Things in America are a slight different variation, more on the civilian side. Where Shrekker was, I believe, I'm pretty sure it was an ex-military car, which most of the 181s usually are anyway. So obviously we've had this car for probably about 8 months. I think it was about last May we picked the car up. We've known of the car for, well, the owner that had it at the time for about 6-7 years. But the car's quite well known anyway. It was originally built on a program called Camper Van Crisis, I think it was, or Beetle Crisis. I think it was Camper Van Crisis, by Kevo and the guys at the Race Shack. Obviously, it's got a lot of history because of that. I think that was early 2000-ish. It used to drag race at Santa Pod. I believe from one of the receipts we've got from Santa Pod, it was running 10.5 quarter miles and 155 mile an hour. I think Connor was the driver then. It did hit the wall, and it was a sandy desert colour at the time, and after the rebuild of it, clearly from totaling it in the wall, it ended up being bright green and became Shrekker. So we've always been known for owning a Volkswagen Trekker on the Volkswagen scene as such. So we've got the bare metal one, which we've had for about 8 years, which was a nut and bolt restoration. Again, it's quite bad when we bought that, but we'll feature that later in the channel. So after the TV sort of side of things and it hitting the wall, I don't know what happened. There's a sort of grey area that I've got any history on. But then another guy owned it who I ended up meeting through some Facebook page, I believe. It was probably the Trekker page, UK Trekker page. Obviously he owned Shrekker. I remembered the car. Sort of known him for about 6-7 years, I think, maybe. Got talking to him, and about 3 years ago, he spoke to me about buying the car off him. Bit of a long story to it all, but in the end, after 3 years of trying to sell us the car, we were on our way to collect it last January, so having finally done a deal, and on the way to collecting it, the deal was pulled. 2 months later, ends up on a raffle site, a car raffle site with Aspire. Some guy in Leeds won it for £3, I believe. The day he got it, he hated the car. He drove a Focus ST, and clearly driving an old Volkswagen, which is really meant for the drag strip, isn't ideal on the roads anyway. So we got tagged in it again on Instagram, and within 24 hours, myself and Paul at South Coast Customs and Classics were on our way to Leeds, which is from Paul itself is a bit of a distance, so we went straight to Leeds to collect it. So yeah, kind of fate in the end, I guess, but the car finally got, well, I think, to the right owner, because we was more concerned about, especially from the raffle side of things, is that it was going to lose all its history, and obviously a lot of people on the raffle comments were saying about the colour of it and the name to it, which it's its drag racing history. So yeah, we're glad we got the car, and it's certainly in better hands now, hopefully anyway. So I guess the best part to start with on the car is going to be the engine, because everyone looks at the car, they can see how aggressive it looks. It's clearly a race car, and they always ask what engine's in it. Sadly, it's only got a 1641 in. Having changed hands with the obviously the path it went through to get to us, the original engine wasn't with the car. So last season we did take it to Santa Pod. It was painfully slow, running a 1641. Even though it should be running probably 16-17 seconds, we still couldn't get under 20 seconds. And I think that was down to, hopefully we'll find out soon, but that was down to the gearboxes still for the big engine. So the 1641 just could not get through the gears.
You do not see many of those.
Yes, the world famous Shrekker. It's good, so good to see this back on track. It's been about 20 years. And it still looks that good. So the story of this was the chap who's now owns it. I don't know if you saw this. This was on an auction site a few months ago. The chap who won it for one ticket, so it was like £3, won it. And he basically posted on Instagram. He was like, "I won this car. I've driven it. He's got a Focus ST, and he was like, I've driven it. I don't like it." This guy has been chasing the car for around 6 years from owner to owner, and he's finally got his hands on it.
Oh, wow.
And bought it, and now he's doing a bit of run what you brung with it, and hopefully we can hook him in, get him back to VWDRC racing.
Well, it looks like reached terminal velocity there, 54 mile out the 8th and 55 on the quarter. But nevertheless, it's good to see it.
Well, again, I mean, he's like, I want to go quicker, but we said, whatever motor's in there, just get it, enjoy it, and then slowly add some more power. Keep it cheap.
So hopefully that's about to change. Another guy got in contact with me stating that he got hold of Shrekker's original engine. So we've just done a deal in the last couple of, month or two really, where our 58 Beetle has now gone, and we've just got hold of Shrekker's original engine, which is a 2165, I think it was, which is a turbo injected stroker engine. Should hopefully be around 11 seconds, we're hoping. We'll find out this season. So hopefully today being Tuesday, tomorrow the 2165 turbo engine is supposed to be arriving, which is great. We've waited a short while for it, and we're looking forward to getting it in the car and just hooking it up, because the engine at the moment, there's lots of things that are still unattached, clearly because they were for the bigger engine. So hopefully it's going to be as simple as just plug and play and get it in, and then hopefully get it dynoed as well so we can see where it's sat at. As for Santa Pod, I'm guessing we're probably going to be around April time by the time we can get back up there next. So that's going to be quite interesting to see really, and see what the car can do now. So it's clear to see that the car's had a ton of work done in the past. Looking at the front, even down to the aluminium beam, all the setup, the actual panels on the Shrekker, on Shrekker itself, look exactly almost to what a Shrekker would look like, but clearly these are all made lightweight and completely been rebuilt and changed and made from scratch by the look of it. But the great thing is it does look like they've kept the original shape and kept the original grooves in the bodywork, which is great, because I mean, my other 181 doesn't actually weigh that much anyway, in all fairness, so Shrekker's got to be a hell of a lot lighter. It'd be nice to know what the difference is in the two, but clearly shedding all that weight, even the doors have been skinned and taken all the, I'm not sure of the original outer skins, but all the inner parts are completely gone. Again, just shedding weight really. So the front splitter, that's a custom piece being made along the lines. It was quite interesting when we did Santa Pod the second time that we actually bumped into the guy who built it, Kevo, and got some quite cool information from him, which was nice to know. Didn't even know at the time, we hadn't had it that long, but we didn't even know at the time that the steering wheel came off. So you're trying to climb in and out the cage, and it would have been a damn sight easier with just one hand the steering wheel comes off, which was quite funny. So yeah, it was nice to get some information out of him, especially as to what we've been told in the past by one of the owners. It was actually nice to get all the actual truth from the builds and what he'd done all those years ago, which was pretty cool. It's running cookie cutters, Porsche cookie cutter wheels. Whether they'll stay, because I think with the bigger engine going in now, it's going to be down to traction, so we may have to, well, definitely tyres is going to be an issue, and getting the traction, so we'll, whether the cookie cutters will stay, but I've always been a fan of cookie cutters. I think they look quite cool. Obviously it's got the race seats in, harnesses in. We need to tweak a few things on that. I don't think the passenger side is quite bolted in harness wise, but again, we don't know. The next plan is to get it scrutineered really and see where we're at for racing. Roll cage, it's not just bolted in, the whole car is a cage as such, so it's not something we can change if it's not up to spec. But what we'll do is, next time we get to Santa Pod, we'll get the guys to scrutineer it, and we can see, one, if it's ready to go straight away, or two, I suppose it's going to be the difference whether we register and race properly or we can only do run what you brung. So fingers crossed, everything's still up to spec. Harnesses can be changed, that's not so much as an issue, the 5-foot harnesses, but more on the cage is probably the biggest problem, and the expense. We don't want to get that deep into changing everything. We just want to enjoy the car really, but at the same time, it'd be nice to get down into the 10s. Whether that happen, I don't know. But for the best part of it, the car's been done and built. and had an absolute ton of money spent on it. So really, other than the engine, hopefully we've got a car we can enjoy really. So moving around the car, obviously we've still got the back doors in place, they're all locked off as such, but the whole rear from behind the front seats is just gearbox and engine bay, which is great because obviously the top panels come off, the whole rear panel comes off, and it just means it's just easy access to get to everything, whereas normally the engine would sit behind the back seats. So yeah, obviously they're all on quick release, so we can get access whenever we want really, and it doesn't create the ball ache like it normally does. And especially when we're swapping the engines over next week, it's just take the back panel off, 4 bolts, and swap over. Whereas the other car, you've got to jack up, lower the engine out. So yeah, that's again, it's just down to the build quality of the car really. Everything's just accessible and great to work with. So we've been asked a few times when we've been at the shows about driving it there. Clearly this car, it is road legal, but it's not one you really want to be driving on the roads. We've got lights, front and rear horn, etc., all that sort of thing. But as the keen people on the Volkswagen Shrekker side of things will notice that the wings have all been raised. Basically, it's all been lifted for ground clearance anyway. But where the bulkhead meets, you've kind of got another low spot. We drove it to Sandbanks and back, which was 19 miles, and that was pretty much a full tank. Again, the tank's only been fitted for straight line drag racing, so yeah, it's not ideal for driving around. And even going to Goodwood, which is like 60 miles, we'd have to stop 3 times. So yeah, again, it's got all the street legal side to it. It's okay, it drives like a go-kart, but it's not ideal on the streets in all fairness, because it wasn't built for that. So moving on really, future plans for us. Again, as mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got the Shrekker turbo engine coming, hopefully tomorrow, fingers crossed. So the new engine will be going in, I think possibly the 1641 and that may end up in our T25 panel van. Not 100% sure just yet. A couple of jobs need doing on the actual car itself, which when we were racing last year, we sort of found there's no line lock, no handbrake, the tacho's not working. So there's a few things we just need to, hopefully once the engine goes back in, the original one, that'll create sort of a few ideas that what the reasons they're not working is probably just because we were disconnected when that engine came out. So hopefully we'll connect all those back up. We need to put some sort of staging brake in from the line when racing, and obviously we did get the line lock working. And for those that saw our Santa Pod video when we were racing, we got it working, but it locked all the brakes up and took us an hour to take them all off and free up the brakes. So we need to address that issue, which hopefully is just a solenoid. So yeah, fingers crossed, just get a few of those jobs done, especially the tacho side, and then get that engine in, and you'll see on the channel that we'll give it a few test runs beforehand anyway. Just getting it all primed and ready for the next Santa Pod run. And for God's sake, we've got to get on the 20 seconds, which shouldn't be hard with a new engine. I just think, again, like I said earlier, it's just a gearbox. So we shall hopefully give you something to follow on that side of things as well. So if you haven't already looked at our channel, please like and subscribe, and check out the old video, especially when we got the car and took it to Santa Pod and some of the other builds. And hopefully now you'll see a lot more builds coming through from all our customers at Rivo's Hub. So just like to say a big thanks to a couple of people, Paul at South Coast Customs and Classics, obviously for a last minute call about Shrekker coming up and him coming in on it with me, especially picking up the car and obviously owning the car. It wouldn't have been happened without Paul being around, and plus it's something for both of us moving forward now, especially on getting the names and brands out there, like his obviously South Coast Customs and Classics, Rivo's Hub and Dorset Volksfest, which is our festival. Yeah, and probably just the last few people we've met throughout the season, especially at Santa Pod, having never raced or drag raced before, everyone was so welcoming up there, and you know, we had a lot to learn, and we still are, we will be anyway, certainly this season. So a big thanks to everyone in the pits that was there doing that as well. Nice one. I'll see you soon with the next car.